Hey guys, welcome back to Tea Time, the podcast, and I'm your host, Cassia Morena, fondly known as the Branding Queen. So I'm glad that you guys clicked play on today's episode because, as usual, I am bringing you the good stuff, and I hope that you benefit from today's tips. So, today I wanted to talk to you guys about 3 tips to get more out of your tea. And I mean, for me, creating the content, I feel like saying or prefacing this, it might sound like basic content or surface level content to some, I don't know. But usually, we on this end think what we have to share isn't important. But then on the other end, it's like the little things sometimes really matter. And I felt like sharing this with you all today because ever so often I find myself in a place of gratitude for the simplest things, which we should. We should be grateful for the simplest things. So let me explain what I mean. Right? So that takes me into tip number 1. One of the things I'm grateful for is mental space, mental clarity without the clutter and the noise. How much more productive are you when you don't feel overwhelmed? People talk about overwhelm all the time. And being in business, doing your own thing, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with everything on your plate. Just being an adult, period, right? So, with that being said, with that being said, the little things do matter. The simplest things and changes do matter. So, one of the things I find myself sitting in gratitude by is not being constantly bombarded by the internet. Now, this might sound strange because I'm always all about building your brand online, the internet, using technology, all the tools, etc., etc. But everything in moderation. Everything has to have a balance, and everything still has to have some level of, I guess you can say, strategy. Now, usually when we think strategy, we're thinking marketing, we're thinking launch plan, we're thinking um, content creation and all those different things. But what I mean is, how do we use the tools efficiently? How do we not let these things take over our lives? Remember, we are people, right? And we just shouldn't be sucked into this vortex of social media apps, your phone, being on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, YouTube. There's so much out there. It's easy to get lost in the madness. But we also have to unplug. And tip number 1 isn't about unplugging per se, which is good to do sometimes, from time to time. Do a detox, delete apps that you're no longer using, and have that social media detox. Now, the tip is really, and let me give you the story. Actually, let me give you the tip first. The tip is unsubscribe from all social media notifications, aka they're known as unsubscribe from push notifications, social media and email. And let me tell you the story. This story goes like this. It first started with email. Now, being a designer, right, before I got to where I am today, which is a combination of design, strategy, teaching through workshops and online courses, primarily the background of mine is design. And for the past 10 years, that's where it's been. Well, that's where I started my career. I've been in this field, and it all started off with the design. So needless to say, I've been designing for 10 years. And it would start with, with the basic, simple stuff, logo and business cards. Everybody needs or wants or chases logos or business card. And we all know that it goes deeper than that. It's all about your brand, etc., which that's not what we're here to talk about today. But generally speaking, everybody, the most in-demand item is logos and business cards. And then it builds out from there, labels, brochures, flyers, etc., etc., right? Those are the secondary items. So having been doing these things for so many years, if you have a creative in your life, you might understand. If you're creative, you may understand. Um, but going back and forth with clients can become very stressful. The countless revisions, back and forth, clients not knowing what they want, them changing their minds. All the while, nobody expects that the fee is going to change or there's going to be an additional fee. Just like when you go to KFC, we go to McDonald's, and you want an additional piece of chicken, you have to pay for an additional piece of chicken, right? That's just to give context. So anyway, needless to say, it can be very stressful in our field dealing with clients. Not that I hate my clients, not that we hate our clients. We actually love our work. But the client to designer interaction can become very stressful according to who the client is at times, right? You've even if you're not a designer, you have experienced your own horror clients in your field, right? That extremely miserable person that you just can't seem to reason with. So needless to say, I had my own version of a horror client year before last year. And that is because I was still refining my process, my ideal client. And you find your ideal client or discover your ideal client through trial and error. And it's always a constant work in progress. Even where I am today, my ideal client has changed, and it's always going to change. And as it changes, as you grow and evolve as a brand, you're going to continuously have to refine your ideal client avatar. So it's always going to be a work in progress. Anyway, that year I had a lot of trial and error. And imagine sitting with your kids doing, reading. I already have a son who would give so much drama when it comes to reading. But that didn't last a while, just in case you all are wondering or worried. It was a phase he went through at the beginning of the term, and then he settled down. So, like a regular 9 to 5 job, you have hours to clock in and clock out. But obviously, when you are building your business, building your brand, you work longer than that. You continue to work. But I realized I had to set boundaries and set aside my mommy hours, my mommy time. Those who are familiar with me for a while, my friends, those who've been following me for a while or worked with me, you would have heard me say, hey, I'm on shift. I'm on the mommy shift right now. I'll get to that about after 8 when the kids are gone to bed. So this is mommy hours. I am on this shift. And imagine you are spending your time, unwinding, just finished, wrapped up reading with the kids, about to put them to bed in a few minutes. So this is just a little nice pocket of time in the evening. And then this notification comes in from Gmail, and you see a preview of the message, dissatisfied person. And when you read it, it's a long paragraph. And you are all ready to go into, this is not right. You have all the firstly, secondly, and the thirdly, where it comes with, this is how we can work this out. Right? Now, needless to say, this person or client was trying to hit a 6 for 9 and get more than they were supposed to, right? But I don't want to get too much into that, right? But the point is, it happens. You have that person. Now you're all riled up. You're upset that you can't pick up the phone and speak with the client right away to either rectify or write an email to be sent right away because you want to send it now. You want to deal with it now. And it's like, in hindsight, that same day, I was like, I didn't really need to read that. Because ignorance is bliss, right? If I hadn't seen that email until I clocked in for quote unquote, air quotes, work at 8 a.m. the next morning, then I would have read it, then I would have been fired up, and then I would have crafted the email, respond, and then have a phone call if necessary, or have the phone call and send the email after for, black and white. Because it's one thing, people are different on the phone, are all nice, but it's always good to cover yourself. So that's just a side bonus tip. Even if you have a phone call and a verbal agreement, always follow up with a written agreement. And even if that written agreement just means you typing out just to cover what we agreed to in the phone conversation, or it's basically an email just outlining what was discussed, and you put at the end, please indicate receipt of this email. By indicating receipt, they are agreeing that yes, this is the agreement, because they acknowledged it. They did not have any issues what was contained. So this is how you cover yourself in business. Everybody who's worked in the corporate world will be very familiar with that, doing that, right? So anyway, that's when I made the first decision. You know what? If these are my off hours, if I'm not on the clock, I don't need work emails disturbing me. Because I had this, I guess, epiphany that due to that situation, it made me think outside of this situation with this client. On a whole, that made me realize oftentimes I would be going about my day doing things that wasn't in the realm of work, right? I may be at the grocery, I may be out with the kids, I may be washing the wares. The point is, I am off the clock. So anytime I would get an email, it will always throw me off, because sometimes it's not even a client just being upset, but a client might send through okay, well, not revisions, but let's say I rely on content or information from clients in order to get certain things done. And sometimes I would get certain responses, or I would get sent certain things, or even a new inquiry. And sometimes these things just throw you off, and you always feel this urge to respond right away. Or I would be washing the wares, and then I would be like, oh, this person responded, let me go hop on the computer. And you get sucked into your work. And we have to set boundaries in our lives. We have to set boundaries in our business to separate work from business at times, even if we work from home, right? This is going to take me to my next point when it comes to batching. But you have to time block everything that you do to get the most done, to maximize on all the hours that you have in your day, even to maximize for your health, because you have to take into consideration even rest. So in order for you to get rest, you have to be like very efficient with getting tasks done. And I think many times we lose out on even our rest because we aren't getting certain tasks done, and we would push more hours, and then we're deprived and we get burnt out, right? So that's when I realized, you know what, in hindsight, I'm thankful it happened, because I don't think if it wasn't for that situation, I may not have realized, you know what, getting these notifications and seeing a preview of the email, as we can see the preview of the email, because it's one thing to just get the notification, okay, ignore. But even if you can't see the preview, right? So on one end, if you see the preview, you get a peek into the email, and now you want to respond and get sucked into your work. Or if you don't see it, you're curious, I wonder what this email is about, because you're going to see who it's coming from. So it's just better to turn off your notifications. That is my tip. Turn off your notifications for your email. And then I left social media on, because social media isn't that quote unquote serious until it became serious. So my other situation is a couple months ago, right? I noticed, I guess, a decline in engagement and likes. And it wasn't just that there was a decline, and this feels very weird to discuss, because I'm a little bit ashamed to admit it, because I know better. Noticed, okay, yeah, so I wasn't just the decline, but I was putting so much work and effort into my content creation. I was hours curating, my feed, and now I still curate my feed, but I wouldn't say that I don't put the same level of quality out. It's just that before, I think I would overthink it, or I would probably spend way too much time on it. Whereas now I've found the hack, and I've found a way to maintain a consistent feed without spending 2 hours sitting down designing a feed, right? But it's still consistent and cohesive, and the content, I would still say that it's of quality, but sometimes I think I was just overthinking it. Long story short, I think I was overthinking it. And when I wasn't getting the quote unquote returns, which likes and engagement, while that is good, right? Engagement even better, because people are engaged in you and what you're putting out and the content that you're putting out, because likes are very fleeting, right? But it's very easy on social media to compare ourselves to our peers in our field. And you look at, oh wow, she put out more or less this basic one line, and she gets all of these likes and all of these comments, and she didn't really say anything. And then you look at the comments, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're so empty, nothing of substance, right? It's more like, hey girl, it's so long I haven't seen your face. And it's like, yeah. So I would admit I went down that rabbit hole. And this is why, like, when I put out content and I say certain things, it's not because I'm bashing you guys. It's like I could honestly, genuinely relate. It's not judgment or anything like that. I understand. I've been there. I've done it. And I see how unproductive some thoughts and activities are. And I think I did either a live last year or year before, but I remember putting out a piece of content either via my blog, on my website, or via Facebook Live. And what the content was about is, we're all looking at the wrong numbers. We're looking at the wrong numbers. Engagement, very important. What I've noticed is, even if I have like lower likes than usual, when my engagement is high, my likes are usually lower, which I find so strange. But yet Instagram considers that a very high performing post, because engagement is of more value than likes. Whereas I might get lots, beyond my usual average, but if there aren't any comments, Instagram isn't telling me to promote it, because they don't tell me this is a high performing post. But by our mental standard, our societal standard, we think, oh wow, she has lots of likes, or people really like her stuff. Likes are fleeting. It just takes 2 taps to like someone, right? And you just keep on scrolling. But for someone to stop and actually leave a thoughtful comment, obviously that's way more than the value of a like. And I can't believe I'm explaining this, but I'm explaining it nevertheless. The live essentially was about, we get so obsessed with the wrong numbers. The numbers we should be paying attention to is the numbers in our analytics. You open up your Instagram analytics, and you can only see that if you have a business account. So if you haven't, go get it. But you'll see analytics. Those are the numbers you should be monitoring. What are the best days to post? This is a question people always ask. Check your analytics. The data is there. You don't have to go to a third-party app or a third-party business to get the data that exists out there. The analytics are right there in your hands. Just go to it, and this is what we should be paying attention to. This is how we monitor what people want, their consumer behavior, etc., etc. So often we use the poll feature, but many times people don't know what they want. You have to observe and draw conclusions like a scientist, right? Now I'm going off topic a bit, but I have to put in there, while we're on the topic of getting caught up in the wrong things, is look at your analytics. Instagram, Facebook, Google, these are the things that matter. Those are the numbers you want to pay attention to, right? So tip number 1, unsubscribe from all your notifications. Because even though I told myself, stop looking at the numbers, because I had come across a piece of content of, imagine how we would behave or how we would post or the types of things we would post if we couldn't see how many people liked our stuff. Then we would post because we genuinely have something of importance to say. So often we are just posting for posting's sake, posting for the vanity likes. And that is when I try to shift from, okay, let me just get back to the core of what I'm about. And while my core didn't change, I started to obsess about the wrong things. And I wanted to stop that. So I stopped looking. I said, you know what? Scheduling my posts. When they post, don't check in. I mean, I'm checking in so I can engage with people who might have posted a comment, but don't check to see how many people commented or who commented and how many likes. We're not checking in for that. Or, just to engage with people who might have sent a DM, right? But somehow I still noticed if a post performed badly. And then I was like, you know what? I'm turning off these notifications because I don't want to see how fast the notifications come in or if they're coming in slowly. Like, it's so stupid. But tell me if you can relate to this. Comment below on the post on Instagram that talks about this episode, to listen to episode number 11. Go back on that post and comment and let me know. Can you relate? Let me know if you can relate to this, because I'm pretty sure you can relate to this because it's so stupid, right? And then I was like, this is stupid. I'm turning off notifications and life has been great ever since, okay? That is all I wanted to say. That was my long-winded tip on unsubscribing to notifications. It really does wonders for your mental health, and not just from the obsession of numbers, but I like not being, I guess, interrupted just the same way I would be interrupted by technology and the vortex of the internet with notifications. Because, okay, you get this notification, you go in, and it all happens to us. We log into Facebook, we log into Instagram, and we forgot what we came there for. So you get this notification, you're trying to be productive in your day. You see this message, you go in, answer the message. Before you know it, you're on your feed, scrolling away, you're on the explore page, and 20 minutes of your day is gone. Like, I really appreciate being much more in control of the technology than it taking control of me and my life. I love being able to just be like, hey, I haven't been on Instagram for a couple hours. Let me see what's going on. Then I log in and I see a couple messages. I can respond to all three in that 10-minute time frame. And then I bounce. Not me being a slave to my phone because the notification went off, right? The notification went off and I go to respond to that one message, engage in a conversation. Then a couple minutes later, message number 2 comes in and I go in. No, we need to batch our activities, which takes me to tip number 2. Batch your task/time block your activities. Now, I initially made notes on this point specifically to getting the most done in your business, but this applies to everything in general, your whole day in general. Because if you are fully self-employed in your business, then you have to set these time blocks amongst your personal tasks as well, right? Especially if you work from home, it's even more of a challenge because it's easy to be like, okay, I'm sitting at the computer, I'm working on something, and then you realize, oh, I need to go to the grocery store. And before you know it, an hour, 2 hours of your day is gone because you got swept up in running errands. And one thing led to the next, that led to the next, when really you just went to the grocery for one thing. But before you know it, oh, my day is done because I went off to pay a bill. I stopped to buy something to eat. I saw a friend. We started to chat, and it's all gone from there. We need to be in control of our day and set our intention. Even if you don't leave the house, you might find yourself getting caught up in domestic duties. Like, oh my gosh, I need to wash some clothes. Let me just put a load of clothes to wash, and then I'll come sit down. That is a trap as well. It's just as bad as social media when you work from home. It takes a lot of discipline, right? So batch your task. Time block social media, time block email, time block admin work, time block accounting. Do not multitask. You get the most done when you just focus on one task at a time. It gets the task done that much faster. So what I use and what I suggest that you use is time block windows of, depending on the task and depending on what you need to get done that morning. So you brain dump, and then you time block different things. And you will work this to suit how you work, because a 90-minute stretch might be too much for you. A 30-minute stretch might be better when you take a 5-minute break and you go back to 30 minutes. Or you might go for 90 minutes and take a half an hour break versus a 5-minute break. It all depends on what intervals work for you, and it depends on, I guess, how you're feeling that day, because I change things up according to how resistant I might feel to my own work that day. So if I'm feeling really resistant, I would just say, okay, let me just dedicate 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. And then you build momentum and realize, you know what, I can go for another 30 minutes and then take a break after that. Some days I feel super motivated and I feel like I can just sit down and go ham for 90 minutes creating, just creating, whether it's for my own business or it's for a client. Some days you feel super inspired, right? So the time blocks I suggest is 30, 60, 90, or you can do 45 as well. But 90 is usually the max a person will time block. If you can go for 2 hours, by all means, you do that. So, yeah, and you dedicate that to one type of task. And if you finish that particular type of task and your 90-minute stretch isn't up, or your 60-minute stretch isn't up, then you can decide to reward yourself for finishing, or you can decide, hey, let me see what I can make use of this block of time to do. And you find yourself being way more productive this way. Tip number 3 is continuing a little bit off of batching your time, is using a booking calendar. It's so easy for the day to fly by, or the hours and the minutes to fly by in talking. Especially even if you're not a chatty person, if you are talking to a chatty person, it's unbelievably crazy how fast the time can go. And sometimes that chatty person, usually chatty people, it's easy to keep talking with them because you might click with this person and you love what they're talking about, but you really know you have other things to get to. Not that you don't want to talk to them, but it's really not a good use of your time right now. So my tip for that is use a booking calendar, even for phone calls. It may seem very formal and it may seem like you make setting people up for an appointment, but either one of two things happen. If I don't use my booking calendar, I forget to have certain important conversations. 2, I either spend way too much of my day having meetings, consultations, or talking with business friends, or just talking to people because you want to help them, right? Because this goes for your associates as well. Sometimes we spend way too much time talking to our business buddies that we don't actually get work done some days. You know, you've been there, you're guilty. So yes, you know what I'm talking about. So sometimes you need to set a booking calendar so that you can even time block a time to talk. It's important to time block that, because that is taking time out of your day from you actually working. And I don't think people understand how valuable time is. I don't think people understand how valuable talking is. You know, like people might say, oh, I just want to ask you a question. Oh, I just want to talk to you. Like this even goes for friends as well. It's like, I don't have time. I really should be finishing this thing I'm working on right now. And it's not because you don't want to talk to them. It's not because you don't love them. we sometimes need to have discipline, and we have to have self-restraint. So again, use a booking calendar. No matter what type of business that you are in, there are many calendars that you can use that have free versions. Calendly, I know, has the free version. um, Acuity has a free version, but it doesn't, there's certain limitations that Calendly doesn't have. So you can set up a basic um, calendar, which with the free trial you can only create one type of, I guess, service or calendar. I mean, if you can't see it and I can't walk you through to really explain it, but there are different types of calendars you can set up in your calendar. So you can have one for a free 15-minute consult, one for paid, one that is only 30 minutes long, one that is 45 minutes long. So there are different types that you can set up. But if you have the free one, you can set up just a general time that you know that I can, okay, between these hours and these hours I'm pretty much free to chat. Then you schedule that as your time for people to book a time to talk with you. And not to confuse you, this doesn't mean you're going to give your friends a calendar to talk with you, but I just mean in general, have a calendar when speaking with clients, new customers, any type of thing that is business. It's okay to tell people, hey, let's schedule a time to talk. Here's the link. What is it? Still like the best time that's suitable for you. That is essentially the equivalent of asking someone when is a good time. It's easy to get caught up, especially via text, email, or DMs, to go back and forth on when is a good time, that it gets really frustrated, right? It's much easier to just send someone a calendar, show them when you are available, and they just choose a time. It's a lot more efficient. So tip number 3 is use a booking calendar to talk to people and set it up on your website or your social. On Instagram, if you're using Acuity, there is a place where you can connect Instagram with your Acuity link, and it's called Book. If you look on my profile, you'll see Book. That is connected to my Acuity link. And if you don't have a website, you can just put that in the website section of your Instagram bio. But yeah, set it up on your website, your social media, or you can create like an email script or DM script, just basically a text script, so that when these situations arise, you can just copy and paste, send it to them and say, hey, sounds really good. I'd love to chat with you, chat more about that with you. Click this link here and let's set up a time to talk. It also makes it seem as though like you're really interested in this person and that you want to set aside a dedicated time to talk to them. So that's an additional touch when it comes to, having that dedicated time, that set schedule time to chat with persons. And you can make it fun, right? And call it like, hey, let's set up a virtual coffee date. Call it a coffee date. Same way you'd say, hey, let's do coffee in real life, or hey, let's meet up at Starbucks to chat. You can call your calendar a coffee date. That's just an idea. So I hope these tips were very useful to you. First tip, unsubscribe to push notifications. 2, batch your time. 3, use a booking calendar. All right, and you will see your productivity in your business soar. You'll feel a lot more on top of your day. And this is how we use the tools to help us run our businesses and build our brands online, rather than having the technology, the apps, and these tools that were meant to support us. Instead of them taking over our lives, we take our lives back and we take control. All right, so let me know if these tips were helpful to you. Leave a comment. You can DM me, send me an email, but ideally just comment on Instagram or any Facebook post and tell me, give me your feedback on this episode and how it was helpful to you. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, share this with a friend, share this with a business buddy who might find this valuable or useful. So until the next episode, I will talk to you guys again soon. And also, side note, sign up for my VIP list at brandingqueen.me/VIP list so that you can always stay in the loop of what's new, what's happening, and stay up to date. All right, so until the next one, I'll speak to you guys again soon. Bye.